begins on a Sunday in August. The challenge? 440 miles of hills and wind and flatlands and rain and lemonade stands and good times and bad times and sweat and sore muscles and a lot of fun for just about everybody. It begins at Council Bluffs on the west with the ceremonial dunking of wheels in the waters of the Missouri. It ends 7 days later at Dubuque on a bluff overlooking the broad Mississippi. Not all will attempt the full journey, joining the caravan of bicycles only for a few miles close to home. But whether they ride 1 day or 7, not one will ever forget it. Council Bluffs hadn't had any rain for weeks. The campgrounds were, in a word, dusty. The scene at the motel where the bikers assembled for the August 4 departure looked like mob action, but everything was orderly amid the confusion as the riders, some 2,000 of them, arrived from around the state, unloaded their bikes, and began friendships that continue to this day. The Des Moines Register, sponsor of the ride, leased trucks to carry baggage from one overnight stop to the next. The Iowa chapter of the American Automobile Association donated safety flags. Dorothy Strobene, then the mayor of Council Bluffs, sent the riders on their way. That's columnist Donald Call, one of the Register's hosts for the ride, talking to the mayor. And there's John Karras, the other host, yelling at someone. Karras yells a lot. Departure en masse. What a sight. Bicycles as far ahead and as far behind as one could see, unless one was at the beginning or at the end of the line. Spirits were high as the riders left Council Bluffs and remained high, more or less, all the way to Dubuque. One of the great misconceptions of our time is that Iowa is flat. Tell that to any Iowa bicycle rider and he'll laugh out loud. Unless he's just ridden up an Iowa hill and is still trying to catch his breath. Repairs started early. 90% of them were flat tires, and the repair vans accompanying the ride took care of the ones the riders couldn't repair on the spot. In a short time, the riders were spread out over many miles. That's one of the nice things about the Register's second annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa. There was only one rule. You had to smile a lot. Otherwise, everyone rode at his own pace, stopped to rest whenever he wanted to, did his own thing. And still the hills persisted. Hancock. The day the ride went past was Old Settlers' Day in Hancock, and what a fine spread of food. Most of the riders had lunch there. Part of the Old Settlers' Day parade. This ambulance accompanied the ride across the state. The ambulance and services of the driver and attendant were all donated. Campground at Atlantic, the first overnight stop. Watch the feet of the man in the sunglasses. That's the way to ride a bike. A nice, fast, smooth cadence, about 80 revolutions per minute. A skilled rider can maintain that pace all day long without exhaustion. And the hills persist. Sonora. The land flattens out here. Well, it kind of flattens out. One farm family provided free milk donated by the Iowa Dairy Association. The gentleman in the pith helmet is James Tracy of Muscatine. At 74, the oldest person on the ride, and he made it to Dubuque. Lieutenant Robert Glenn of the Iowa Highway Patrol made certain the riders didn't miss this turn. The hills persist. Massey Ferguson of Des Moines provided a tractor and wagon for the entire ride. Riders who wore out rode on the wagon. Minburn. Just about everyone in this town of 350 persons pitched in to prepare sandwiches, lemonade, and iced tea for the 2,000 riders. The spread was sponsored by the Youth Fellowship of the United Methodist Church. Someone figured out that the sandwich-making effort averaged out to 5 sandwiches for every man, woman, and child in Minburn. This is called drafting, and it is not recommended. A good rider can get up to 50 miles an hour behind a vehicle. That was almost 40 miles an hour. This is one way to cool off. And it looks like a lot of fun, too. Camp Dodge outside of Des Moines, another overnight stop. Many riders camped on the grounds and used the giant pool. stayed over at the Holiday Inn. An Iowa Air Guard helicopter gave us a good view of the scene. Leaving Des Moines. By this point in the trek, most of the riders were ignoring the official starting time of 7:30 a.m. and taking off whenever they felt like it, which was fine. One young man apparently left shortly after midnight because he was asking the Bondurant town marshal at 3 a.m. for directions to Maxwell. Monticello, home of the great Jones County Fair. Monticello set up an information booth for the riders, typical of the marvelous cooperation given the enterprise all across the state. And the Pepsi went fast. The scene is chaotic, but the baggage distribution system worked surprisingly well, considering the amount carried. The register leased 3 trucks, and one of them had to make 2 trips every day. Yes, it was a hard day's ride. 80 miles, the longest of the trip, and 60 of those miles into a headwind and rain. Everyone was tired. This is it, Dubuque and the end of the ride. Those brick streets are pretty to the eye, but treacherous to the tires. here it is, the steepest hill of all, right up the Mississippi Bluff into Eagle Point Park, the end of the ride. Was a huge traffic jam. It looked like all of Dubuque had driven up to take a look at those crazy bikers. Tough and glorious days testing lungs, heart, and legs. Would we do it again? You bet we would.